Hello everyone, welcome to today's Knowledge webinar, Unlock Your Creative Potential. Join the 3Design Jewelry Design Software webinar. If you're ready to take your jewelry design skills to the next level, stay right where you are, you're in the right place, because this webinar will introduce you to the cutting edge tools and techniques that can transform your creative vision into stunning pieces of art. Whether you're a seasoned designer or just starting out, this webinar is packed with insight that will inspire and empower you. And special bonus, all attendees, but actually we extended this sale to everybody. So for the entire month of September, everybody who will be purchasing 3Designs from Novage will get a 10% discount. So um, check it out. Go to novage.com and check our sales, because 10%, it's pretty big considering, the quality and the pricing point of 3Design. Today's webinar presenter, Doug Kearns, has helped both retail and manufacturer jewelers use CAD/CAM technology to change the way they do business and become more profitable. He started his jewelry career over 30 years ago using an early design software called the Digital Goldsmith, who went on to be another highly recognized 3D software in the jewelry space. Now let me show you a little bit about Novage and the page where you can find 3Design Pro or 3Design, the entire software line. Just go to novage.com, search your software of choice, and rest assured you can always reach out to us. There's a phone number to the top of every page and you can give us a call. Novage is changing the way designers purchase 3D software, offering more choices, more freedom, best advice, and faster service. Check us out at novage.com. Now I'm gonna switch my screen to Doug's so he can razzle dazzle you with 3Design. Take it away, Doug.
All right, thank you very much for that intro, and we'll get you started here and walking through 3Design and show you all the different, not all the different ways, we're going to show you quite a few different ways and how we can differentiate ourselves from some of the other CAD software in the market, and show you that we have a whole series of tools that allows you to go in and make pretty much any jewelry that you want to make. So I'll talk a little bit about the interface. Up here is a little clock. Some people like to keep track of how long that they're working on a design, so you can start and stop that as any time that you want. Just helps keep your pricing in spec. This button here will take you out to kind of our help page, out to where our technical support is, out to some of our training videos, quick ways to be able to access links within our web page. This button here allows me to open up an existing project that I've been working on, and you can see I've worked on a few of them. And then this one allows me to open up a new platform, which is what we're going to do here in a second. This down here is kind of a unique thing to 3Design. These are the last 6 projects that I personally was working on. This makes it nice, especially whether you're a retailer or manufacturing based jeweler. Maybe it's time to go to lunch, maybe it's time to go home, maybe you just want to take a break and you want to close the computer down and open it back up. Well, I don't have to come up here and try to find my project. It will save it right down here, so I can have quick access to whatever it is that I want to look at, and bring it right back out. So this was a design that I did for a lady in Hawaii who does everything with custom shape opals. That was a lot of fun to create and show her how that was done. So let's just open up a new viewport here. So let's look at the interface. So a lot of times what you're going to see with other types of software is you get a lot of windows that start popping up all over the place. We streamline our interface, and so you get a focus on whatever tool that it is that you want to work with. Today I'm going to concentrate on this button here, which is our jeweler's bench. It's the tools that we work with to create jewelry, whether it be a channel set, a pave set, headset, bezel set, or just a plain band or something like that. This next button over is going to be our solids menu. In the world of CAD, most CAD softwares, you start off with a line and then you add closed lines to it. That creates a surface. And so the solid menu allows you to work with that surface. And then we'll talk a little bit about the curve menu, because this is really where it all starts. So if I wanted to come out and create a shape, let's say I wanted to create a pendant, and I wanted that pendant to be, say, a certain shape, maybe like an S shape like that, I could just simply draw that shape and then come in and draw another shape and place it on top of it. So I always like to refer to it as people. We all have a spine, and then the shape that makes up our body is different across everybody. So if I was to take my body and cut it in half, what would make up that shape? The same thing happens when you're creating jewelry. You start off with a curve, and then you go in and you look at that as a half of a piece of jewelry or a shape, and then you create the shape that you want it to be. I have a whole library of shapes in here, but I want to show you that you also can come out here and utilize some of our other tools if you want to create your own shapes. So just because we offer a library of shapes doesn't mean that you can't free draw with the software. I also like to notice that over here, this is our history tree, and the word history has a big buzz in it right now, because we do what's called genuine parametric history. So every click that I make, every step that I make, it's basically recording all that behind the scenes. It works inside of our software. It's our software, and we don't utilize a plugin to make that happen. Why is that important? That's important because when you start to use more and more plugins or different types of software that you have to connect to your interface to make it work, the chances of that model getting broken or crashing or anything like that becomes much higher, because you have multiple pieces of software that are trying to communicate together. 3Design is one package inside of a package. So when I do anything with history, it's going to automatically keep track of it. Okay. So just for now, I'm going to come over here and we're gonna hide these over here. They're still going to live over here in my history tree. We also work in kind of a 3/4 view viewport, so I can flip this around and look at it from all angles. Down here's my compass. I'll kind of point this out to you on how I use this a little bit later. For those of you who have worked with other software packages and you like to work in 2 viewports or 4 viewports, we have the ability to set this up in that category as well. So if you're familiar with a 4 viewport work window, you can change this and work in that capacity. I have found, I've used CAD software for 30 years. Once you get used to this, there's no going back. Okay, so we're just going to jump back out of here real quick and let's just build a simple ring. Okay, so another thing that's unique to 3Design, if we scroll all the way down here to the very bottom, there's a little button right here that is called it's called a draft kit, and I'm not going to go all the way through this for you, but I want to show you how it works. If I have an image that I've gone in and created, I can utilize this sketch to help lay out how I lay out this particular piece of jewelry. So instead of going at this from a mechanical way, we can start to work with 3Design and all of its little buttons and pieces in more of a artistic way. So if I just start to line these little dots up here and I start to make my little things happen, sorry, I did that, that was my fault. I can just kind of tell this, where I want it to be, and don't have to get this perfect, because all we're doing is kind of giving it a reference point. And we'll just drop this into the middle and pull this out here. Pull this one out here. I already had those other ones set. And this button right here is really the magic tool. So if I come in here and I kind of line up my through finger, because this is a ring, this is an easy way to be able to know what finger size. If I know that I want to use a finger size 7, I can simply drop this curve down here. I can scale it inside of my ring finger rail, and I can give this a reference point that this curve right here is going to be a finger size 7. And once I do that and I hit the check mark, it basically takes that image and it folds it all up into a box. So now what I can do is I can utilize my sketch to be able to go in and create my piece of jewelry. Now I said I wasn't going to do this. I'm going to do this because it's kind of a really cool way to watch the software work. Okay, so draft kit, you can have 2 images, 4 images, whatever. It just squeezes it and folds it up into a box, and it gives you a reference point on where to lay out your curves. Okay, so if I come over here to my jewelry tools, we have all these different types of builders in here. We've got ring builder, we've got ring rail builder, sweep wizard. You can do signet jewelry, bypass jewelry, cathedral jewelry, different types of patterns, super facets. You can do eternity bands. You can do a simple solitaire. These are all just templates to get you started. So I'm going to click on this button right here, and it remembered that this was a finger size 7. So if I utilize my compass here and I turn this flat, you can see that it remembered that. So that is perfectly a finger size 7. So it's showing me that from this arrow up here, this is where the girdle of my stone is going to land. So if I want to move this up or down a little bit, I can do that. And again, just visually getting it there. I don't have to be perfect with this. Okay. And then I just hit the check mark. So there's my little finger curve going on. So the next thing I want to do, and this is how I build probably 90% of my jewelry, is I click on this next tool right here, which is our ring rail builder. And again, I can just come out here and start to move these different arrows just really to get it kind of sort of close to where I want this to be. So this really is going to end up being kind of a uniform or a half round sort of a shape. And so I line my curves up as closely as I can on the outside. I look over here on the right hand side, and this is telling me that this is probably going to be 1.75 millimeters all the way around. So I just come over here and I round that down to the nearest prize. And now I want to take it to the side view. So when I do that, I click on that, it flips it around. And same thing, I can just simply go out here and start to pull my curves out here to the edge of my image. And again, this will tell me what the measurements are telling me. This is telling me that this is 6 millimeters by 5 by, let's go 3. Okay. Now, from here, I can either jump over here to this last button and I can come out and I can select that curve that I drew up here, that little cowboy hat looking thing, or I can select my menu down here and it will bring up a whole series of shapes, and these are cross sections. So remember, I spoke about being a human with a spine and we're all made up of a different shape. This is it. I think I'd be this shape. Not real sure, but probably pretty close at this point in my life. So we've got prong shapes, we've got rails for wires. Here's our shank shapes. We can do things with tops, middles, and bottoms of signets. If you want to do some class rings and that sort of thing. We've got a chain library in here, different types of clamps, earring, posts, and hooks, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Different types of bales. We do have a starting set of shank libraries in here. Now, I don't want to confuse people because I'm going to be talking about history and parametric history and all how we can go in and work and adjust these once we're done. The ring shanks that are in here in our library are just stagnant models. They don't have any history built into them. But if you're just looking for a simple split shank or something like that that's pretty generic, you can just come down here and maybe open up one of these and utilize it. Most of the time, it's much faster to go in and kind of build it yourself. Plus, then you get the history. But also, if you want to use just a standard peg head, we've got the stellar head numbers in here, bezel numbers in here, if you just want to grab a stock one of those as well. On that note, let's get back to my little half round ring here. So I'm back to my shank shapes, and this is basically a half round, right? So we've got different half rounds in here. The C on any of these means that we've rounded the inside edge of this to make it comfort fit, so you don't have to do that. But this ring pretty much is this shape right here. So when I hit on that and I hit the view, right there's my ring shank shape. And you can see that I popped it out there perfectly. Let's come back over here let's go to my diamond library. This will default to a half carat. And if that's what you want, that's great. But you can always come in and make it whatever size you want it to be. So I'll make this a 0.40 because really if I look at that on my sketch, it's really going to show me that's about what I want it to be. We have all the different shapes in here. So brilliance, rounds, heart shapes, the evil heart shapes. Next button over allows us to work in non-calibrated stone sizes. So if you don't have something that's ideal, like a, 2-to-1 marquee or something like that, I can work with those shapes over here by putting in my own dimensions. We can also work with colored gemstone shapes. Princess and baguettes always get their own house to live in because they've got some nuances. We've got cabochons and then rolettes. And then we also have custom gemstones here as well that you can go in and create your own gemstones around whatever it is that you want. So there's always that as well. Up here, if I click on this hand, this allows me to come out here and I can change the colors of my metals as well as the colors of my stones. So if I want this to be a ruby or a sapphire, if I want it to be, a tourmaline, or we even have agates, black opals, stars, sapphires, all those fun things in here as well. So, and then you can alter these colors as well. So if you're working with, say, a sapphire that isn't necessarily, cornflower blue, it's more of a darker blue, you can make those adjustments there as well. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and hit the check mark. So there's my little stone hanging out there, just like that. And just to stick with the theme here, since I told you I wasn't going to go and work with this sketch, but I am, we'll go back in and show you kind of a longhand way to make a bezel. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to select my curves. And what I want this to do is I want to come over here and I want to work with I want to make sure that it's in this viewport right here, because that way I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to take my little curve here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to look at the shape that I made my my little bezel here, and I'm going to come out and I'm going to draw that shape, and then I'm going to exit out of here, and I'm going to keep that shape. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to go to my solid menu, and this is just a basic revolve, and I want it to revolve around the middle, not around the outside. And when I do that, I hit the check mark. There's my free drawn bezel. Okay, so there's lots of ways that you can utilize this program. For now, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hide my draft kit. It's not gone. You can delete them if you want to, but there's no reason to if you just want to let them hang out there. But let's come back over here. Let's delete that out, and let's come back to my stone. Let's make the stone a little bit bigger. Let's make it a 0.75 millimeter and hit the check mark on that. And then let's go ahead and pull this up a little bit. Get that up and out of that finger rail right there. Something along the lines of that. Probably gonna look good. Might be a little bit high, but we're gonna roll with it. There we go, hit the check mark. So I showed you how you could free draw with a tool, but now I'm gonna utilize our bezel builder. I'm gonna come over here and select the stone. I'm gonna select our bezel builder, and it gives you all the parameters to be able to come in here and create your own bezel. So however you want to do it. You can make it easy, you can make it hard. You can determine, the width, the overall width, the height, how far down through the finger rail it comes. I'm going to push it all the way down. Do you want this to be straight or tapered? As far as the top, do you want this a little bit thicker? And do you want this to be rounded at the top or flat, or do you just want to leave it alone? So it depends on what it is. And then another cool thing here, well, this defaulted to a 45-degree seat, but let's say I want to use a 40-degree burr. I can just come in here and type 40 degrees, and this will automatically adjust the seat angle to accommodate that 40-degree burr. So once I'm done with this, all I need to do is come in, take my burnish that in, and you're ready to set that stone. So there's our two little pieces there. Now I'm going to take this piece, and we're going to do a standard CAD tool. I don't want those. Oh, this is something new in here, by the way. We put this new tool in here. If I right mouse click, it brings up all the tools that I can use with this particular piece. I've been using 3Design long enough. I don't necessarily use this very often, but people that have gotten used to use it really like it. So just as an FYI, another way to access your tools. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two and I'm going to glue them together. So in the world of CAD, that's called a boolean. It's a fancy word for either sticking something together, cutting something apart, or leaving the middle. So I'll just go ahead and boolean to this together. So that's now all one object. I'm going to take my ring up here, or my stone up here again. I'm going to come back to my jewelry tools. And this time I'm going to add a little cutter to it. So same thing as before, how much angle do you want? How deep do you want it to go? You know, how much of a seat angle do you want? How big do you want the azure hole itself coming through the ring? All those fun things can happen right here. And then same command, I'm just going to take this and this, and I'm going to do a boolean again, but this time I'm going to separate them. They're not getting along well, so I'm going to go ahead and take those two apart. And it really took them apart. So what causes that? What causes that is that in the world of CAD, if something is what's called coplanar, it gets confused on what you want it to do. And so what it does is it will get rid of everything for you. So I just went and moved that cutter just a little bit, and now you can see it has solved its own problem. So I've cut that out and everything's ready to go there. By the way, all I'm doing is hitting my space bar to take this and take it away and all that fun stuff. All right, so everything I just did there, you can do in any CAD software really. It's just a matter of how you want to approach it. If I wasn't talking, I could build this whole thing in about 2 minutes. But I like to talk. So let's go in and make some changes to that, because that's where the history over here on your left-hand side, that's where that really starts to come into play. Okay, so I made this all yellow gold. I could have made it two-tone. I could have made it whatever. I've made this, and the customer comes in and they're looking for something similar to this, but they want it changed, because that's what happens in the world of jewelry and jewelry manufacturing. So the first thing I can show them is, well, what do you want to see? Well, they decided that maybe they want to see an oval instead of a round. So we can come up here and we can kind of look at that. And you'll see everything in red is going to go ahead and update for me. So now I've replaced that out with an oval. And they're kind of liking that a little bit more, but they don't like the thickness of the shank, the overall width of the shank. So we can come back over here, go to our ring rail builder. Remember I did this earlier. And I can either, again, utilize my arrows to pull this in, or I can simply swipe and type. Let's make it 4 by 2.5 by 2, just as an example. Whoops, yep, there you go. Hit the check mark, hit the update, and there we have that. That part's done. But again, they want it just a little bit wider. So I've come back in here. We'll come back here and make it 4.5 by 3 by 2.5. So when you remember, I started off with just a basic sketch that I'd had, and now I've gone in and within minutes, seconds, made multiple different types of pieces of jewelry out of this. I'm leaving this down here. I can cut this out at the very end. I could cut it out now. It doesn't matter. It won't affect anything. But I always do that at the end, just so, I don't know, so I feel cool, I guess. So Now what do I want to do? Well, the customer also wants to see some sort of stones going down the side, right? Maybe some little, maybe a channel set, maybe some little beads, whatever it might be. They want to see that. So I've taken my basic design, I've created what it is that they wanted to look at. I come up here now. This is my favorites up here, by the way, tools that I use a lot. I just keep them up here. And I'll go ahead and select this button here. And what this does is it allows me to draw a curve out of that surface. That way, when I go to lay my stones out, they're going to go right down the middle of there. If I was going to use, say, maybe I wanted to put a mill grain pattern on this, I might use that same line and pull it out here to the edge, or a rope pattern, or maybe I want 2 rows of diamonds. Well, then I'd set up 2 of these. 0.50 in the world of CAD is the center. So if you ever get it off of there and you want to get it back, whoops, you just take it back to 0.50. Okay, so we've got that out there. I'm going to go ahead and hit the check mark, and there's our ring. So this is where we start to approach things different than most of the other products that you'll see. I can use one tool to do about 5 different setting styles. This is nice so that if I have a stock piece of jewelry, or maybe a jewelry piece that's in my line of jewelry, if I'm a manufacturer, I can make it available with a click of a few buttons in channel set, bead set, flush set, whatever it is that you want to be able to show the customer, all within one tool. Okay, and we call that tool a channel set tool, and it's a variable channel. So what this is looking for is it's saying, hey, I need to know what line you want to lay these stones out on. And so I grab that line right there, and it drops them out there. And I'm going to change the starting point to bring it up here to the top. And then I can decide if I have a fixed spacing or I have adjustable spacing. Right now, this is showing it at 0.02 in between the stones. I'm going to take it to 0.01. And then I'm also going to change my margin. I'm going to pull these stones down. Come on. Let me pull them down. There we go. So I need to get them away from my little bezel so I have room to work with them, okay? And then over here, we're going to determine am I going to work off of the stone girdle? Am I going to work off the stone culet? I'm going to work off the stone girdle. And then here, I'm just going to push this up. Whoops, the other up. Push this up just a little bit, because as I mentioned, I'm going to put some little beads on here. And then you can determine how many stones you want. So let's just go ahead and make it, I don't know, 5. And let's make it 2-point stones. So we'll make it 7, just as an example. And then if I do want to cut the channel out, I can come over here and hit create channel. And I have all the functionality of being able to make this a channel set. Or if I want to make the channel and still have the beads inside, we can set that all up within this button here as well. But for today, I'm just going to leave that hanging out there just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the check mark. So you'll see that those are nothing more than just placeholders at this particular time. So now I need to tell it what I want in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring out a stone. I'm going to use a round stone because that's convenient. And I need to draw a little prong here. And so I'm not going to worry about this too much. But for right now, we'll just get it kind of sort of around that size. I'm going to hit the check mark. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here to my variable channel, and I'm going to come to the next tool that we use a lot, which is a jeweling tool. And it knows that I want something to go in those spaces, but it wants to know what? Well, I want this to go in those spaces, and there they are. Okay, so I hit the check mark. Now this could be a princess cut, this could be a marquee, this could be a baguette. It doesn't matter. Even though we use rounds as the indicator, it can be any shape that you want it to be. Okay, so the other thing I need to do now is I need to work with my prong. And I want to lay my prongs out down here. So I'm going to come back over here to my variable channel. And this time I'm going to come down here to this button, which is a channel prong builder. Again, it knows that I want to work with this variable channel, but it wants to know what I want to work with. And there it is. So that quick, I've gone in and I've created pretty much everything that I want to create. If I want to come back over here and change these prongs just a little bit, maybe I want the top to be rounded, and maybe I need the prongs to kind of just go down in a little bit inside of that surface. Whoops, I think I went the wrong way with them. Yep, I did. Okay, try this again. There we go. I can make that, again, make those adjustments if they're too thick, if they're too thin, if they're too, you want them more in close to the center of the stone, if you want them out a little bit farther, you can make those adjustments just like that all day long, okay? So next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my stones. Now this is a Dougism. Some people tend to group these and then mirror them over the other side. I tend to do them step by step. And don't ask me why. It's well, I can tell you why. I feel like I have more control over them when I do them this way. But you could arguably go in and group them and just flip them over the other side as well. So then the last thing I'm going to do here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our little azures on here. You've seen this when I did this one up here. So how big do you want them? How small do you want them? What type of angle do you want? You know, all those things that you go through. Do you want clean out holes? You know, some people don't. If that's the case, I can just use a seat cutter and just cut the seat out of it. Maybe you don't want anything in there. It all depends on, CAD's a tool. You can decide whether you use it to do everything or whether you use it to do nothing, okay? So these, again, we'll just mirror them over to the other side. I'm gonna hit the check mark, and now we're ready to go on to the next step. Okay, so I've got my center stone out here. I've got my little beads set out here. I got my stones out here. Now I'm going to cut the clean out holes into here, and I could again do this as one step with the other side, but I'm going to do it as two, and there you can see them. I'm going to do it one more time on this side. I'm going to get rid of those, and now let's do it over here. You can see I've cut those out perfectly. Okay, but customers being customers, they want it a little bit different, okay? They've decided that they don't want the stones to go all the way down their finger because somebody told them that if it gets down too far, it'll be uncomfortable within their fingers. Or they've decided that maybe these are sitting up just a little bit too high, okay? All those things come back into play, and you can easily come back into any of these areas over here. And if I want to mess with these stones out here, I can just come in here and I want to find them. I can type in stone, and it'll ask me, do I want stone 2 or do I want stone 1? I want stone 2. Okay, so what can I do with that? Well, I can decide if I wanted a different shape. Let's just go ahead and make this little emerald cuts. When I do that, I go over here, I hit the check mark, and those are now little emerald cuts. Okay, but let's go back down here to our variable channel because they've decided they want 5 stones. Hit that, hit the check mark, and voila, I now have 5 stones. Okay, so that's the power of parametric history. I can come through these, I can make as much adjustment as I want to them. Where do I want them to go? How do I want them to be? How high do I want the stones? How low do I want the stones? If I drop these stones down just a little bit and hit the check mark on that, hit the check mark on that. Now they're a little bit lower if that's what the customer wants. If they decide they want to go back and see, the round stones back in there, we can click on that, come back over here, choose the round stone again, hit the check mark, hit the update, and now we're back to round stones. So you can see how quickly it is with history to be able to go in and make multiple changes to this very quickly. I'm just going to save this real quick, even though it's not my prettiest work. That way, if I do something crazy, I can have it. Oh, I talked a little bit about the compass. A lot of times I get moving things around and I end up with stuff like way over here or way over here. And then instead of trying to double click on my right and left mouse button, I just want to drag it back. I can simply just go in there and I can click on this and it will recenter it for me. So that way I can get back to my business here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take this. I mentioned this earlier that we could go ahead and punch that finger rail out. I always forget which one of these. There it is. There, that's gone. Just like that. And then the last thing I'm going to show you here is I'll show you our new rendering tool. Okay, I'm happy now. Actually, let's make this a sapphire just to give it some kind of color. Okay, so now that this is done, I don't usually show this, but we can come in here and do weights and measurements off of this. We can get millimeter sizes, we can get penny weights or grams off of this, so you know you're casting. We've got tools in here that if you're trying to hit a certain price point, maybe you need to scoop out the back a little bit to save some money. There's scooping tools in here. We can export this out as an STL and get it ready for 3D printing. We can export it as an IGES file and get it ready for milling. Whatever it is that you need to do, we can make this all happen. Okay, so let me find an angle here that I think this might be pretty. And let's turn yeah, that'll work. Okay, so if I come up over here, a couple of things I'll show you. One is if I come down here to my view, I can just do a file to screenshot. And by doing that, you can set it up if you want a transparent background, if you want to fit it to the object. You can capture it with all this nonsense going on or without. I capture it without. You can tell it where you want it to go. So we'll just say Doug test onto my desktop, and I can control the resolution too. I had this at a pretty high resolution. So let me just show you that again. Screenshot to file. You can go anywhere from window size 640 by 480 all the way up to 3840 by 2160, or you can go higher than that. Now, one of the things about 3Design version 12 is that we don't use a lot of horsepower when we're rendering, so you don't need a high-end computer to make this thing work, okay? So I'll show you that render here in a second. But the other thing I want to show you here is that we can also come in here and we can create an animation of this product here as well. So you can determine how many frames you have, how many frames per second happen, your display option. So if you want to fit the object to the center or to a target, you can add a background into it. The other day I built one and I put a cow behind it. It was kind of fun. You can preview any of these, and then you can also set up the rotation. So if you want to create a custom way that this spins around, you can do that as well, or you can just choose it to go around the center, whatever it is that you want. Once you get this all set up, you just hit the check mark, and it's going to ask me where I want it to save. So I'll say Doug 3. Call it Doug Animation 3. We'll hit the check mark and I'll hit go, and now it's off and running, and it's going to create that animation for me. And I'll show you these both here in a couple seconds. While this is doing this, let's talk a little bit more. So we mentioned at the beginning, anybody that purchases 3Design between now and the end of September, we are giving a 10% discount. We typically don't discount our products. We feel that there's no reason to. We do have the most robust set of tools in any of the jewelry tool sets out there. We've been doing this since 2000. We've got a whole series of people that can help with training. We have we have online training that you can take. The online training is 3 days, 5 hours a day, and as I mentioned, it is online, and that package starts at $1,500. We also sell access to our training videos. If you want to try to teach yourself, I always recommend people do some sort of instructor-led training, but if you have some CAD background, you want to try to teach yourself, you can always, purchase our training videos. Those are $880 for 12 months access. So those are the two big things. We do training once a month, the hands-on training with our instructor online. We do those once a month, traditionally on the third week of every month. So September class is full, October class is half full. So if you want to take advantage of that, now's the time. So let me just open up that animation for you. Hope it'll show. Sometimes on, well, it showed. I just had it too close. Like I said, let's show you a different one. Sorry, I set that up wrong. Let me show you the one with the cow. This will be fun. I got that one with the cow. Let's see. I don't know what this is. There's the cow with the rotation. So you can see how fun that can be. And then the last one I just did, I think I called it Doug. Yeah. So there's the resolution of that. I had a satin finish on my ring. There's my diamonds. I do have my prongs just a little bit tall. I've got this a little bit thick, but you can see that that's a really, really strong animation, and it took seconds to be able to go in and make that happen. So that's kind of 3Design 101. There's lots we can do in here. Let me just go over some of the jewelry tools real quick. We've got pave layouts, advanced pave. We can do wire clusters. We can do just standard cluster settings, baguette settings and channels, heads and bezel builders, which are down here. We also have stock heads and stock bezels that you can work with. Honeycombing, if you're doing pave and you want to do the honeycomb pattern on the backside, we have that. You saw me use the prong and the prong placers. We also have channel pave and channel prongs. We have micro setting. Micro setting has been a hot thing for quite some time. We put a builder in there that helps to speed up that process, and it really does a nice job. I was talking to a guy yesterday that all he does is micro setting, and I went in and built a quick piece for him, and he really liked the control that he could get over this builder. Presetting, just the way it lays out. We've got rope builder and mill grain builders in here. If you're showing a customer, go ahead and put the mill grain on. I always tell people, just because you can do it in CAD doesn't mean you should. And mill grain is one of those things. Rather than putting the mill grain on here, I would just raise a little bit of an area and then use my mill grain tool to mill grain that to get that nice crisp look. But of course you can use the mill grain builder, but just make them a little bit bigger, so when you come back in with your tool, you'll have plenty of metal there to make it happen. Different types of other builders, little bangle builders, bales, charm builders. I talked about scooping out the inside of a ring, hollowing out the inside of a ring. That lives right there. Different types of wraps and unwraps. You can use that a lot when you're want to put a pattern onto a piece of jewelry, whether it's a necklace. You can unwrap it, work on it flat, and then it automatically puts it on the surface. What else do we have? Ring resizer. We actually do a real ring resizer. Some of the software out there, what they'll do is when you go to resize a ring, they'll ask you where you can distort that ring. And that's okay when you're going up in size, but when you're going down 2 or 3 sizes, you don't really want that. So in 3Design, what we do is we actually rebuild the ring behind the scenes, but not changing the stone sizes. So it's a true ring resize builder. Here's your weights and measurements right there. I kind of clicked on that a little bit earlier. Again, all the different tools. I don't get into these, but we have super actions. Super actions is, let's say you're doing something over and over. It's very complex and it takes too long to do it over here through the builders or through history. We can create a super action, and that super action basically takes surface modeling, different surfaces, and we put history to it. So a way that you might do that is some specialized halo that you want to make over and over, things like that. It's just makes it a lot more convenient to be able to do all those fun things. We do have some subdimensional tools in here. I will be honest, I've used 5 different subdimensional tools in my lifetime, and I'm really good at making a bowling ball and dice. My brain just doesn't work with that type of modeling. But if you do like to get into sculpting, we do have a starter set of tools for that type of modeling in here. And then we also sell an add-on package for $1,700 if you want to get more advanced into the more of the pro tools with that. We can expand on that. I just don't hide behind it. I used to try to fake it. My brain just doesn't think that way. My brain thinks this way. So anyway, there it is. 10% off the month of September. $1,500 to do our training. If you want to do the video training, it's $880. And that's the end of my gig.
Doug, thank you so much for reminding everybody of the promotional sale. This is, I understand it's a big deal, so please check 3Design out and consider the unique opportunity you have for this month. We'll stick around a few minutes for some questions. And in the meantime, if you don't mind, Doug, I will show again my slides where people can see what the page of 3Design looks like on our catalog. Just go to noveg.com, search for 3Design, and you'll see the entire list of 3Design products. And for this month, you can take advantage of the great discount. And I want to remind everybody that Noveg is changing the way designers purchase 3D software, offering more choices, more freedom, best advice, faster service, and no headaches. So check us out. And I don't see questions, Doug. I can tell. I mean, your webinars are always so interesting, but so visually pleasing. I'm sure everybody's still, enjoying this.
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to point out before we close out of this, and it's really quite important, is 3Design does not work in the cloud. We are dongle protected. And why is that important? Because when you have security that lives in the cloud, sometimes that security isn't as secure as people want to think. But more importantly, if you don't have an internet connection or a good internet connection, the product won't start. So we don't rely on a cloud-based security. We have a dongle, you plug into a USB drive, you can work from anywhere you want. In the middle of the desert, as long as you have power, on the beach, in an airplane, we don't require an internet connection to run our products. So that's a big deal because lots of software does, and it's probably one of the biggest complaints I hear about some of the other software packages out there is, man, there's times I just can't get into it. You'll never have that problem here.
Right, and 3Design is not a plugin, it's an entire tool.
Correct. Yep.
So you don't have to, one and done. You get that and you're good to go in terms of modeling, rendering, everything as you saw.
Yep.
So
thank you for everybody
so much,
for your
Doug.
time. For those that watch it on the replay.
Thank you, and have a great rest of the day, everybody. Bye-bye.